Okay, Jim.
Our drummer is on delay this morning.
Are we on? Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Jubilee Circle. Michael?
Oh, that's fine. I was already playing it, so.
There's a new territory that I never knew before, like a fire of transformation breaking down through my core, shining bright in the darkness. I can see the night of day. There's a new territory. It's my strength, it's my way. Yes, a new territory. It's my strength, so let us pray.
Well, I pray, I pray you'll see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Wake up, wake up and see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Let go and see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Say yes and see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Forgive and see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Well, I pray you'll see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything.
There's a new territory that I never seen before, like a fire of transformation breaking down to my core, shining bright in the darkness. I can see the light of day. There's a new territory. It's our strength, it's our way. There's a new territory. It's our strength, so let us pray.
Well, I pray you'll see the best of life, the best of love, the very best of everything. Oh, yeah. All right, everybody, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us this morning here at Jubilee Circle. We'll leave that on there. We'll need that later. We've got a few visitors in the building this morning. Woo! Thanks so much for being here, for joining us this morning. It's nice to see half of an unfamiliar face, so or a quarter of it or something. So welcome to everyone who is here. We are beginning our new Via. For those who are brand new, on the wall back there, you see those tapestries that say Via Transformativa, Via Positiva, Via Negativa, Via Creativa, and we divide the year up into 4 quarters like it usually is, and we have different themes for different Vias. And the Via Creativa, it begins in the new year. It's the winter. It's the time of growth and birth and creativity. And so we're beginning our Creativa theme this morning called Becoming Light. We give birth to the creative light of love in this world when we're willing to change, when we become aware of the world in new and deeper ways, and we recognize spiritual growth as our head knowledge becomes a heart knowing, and then we embody that light in the world. And this is the fourfold path that we are going to be exploring during this Via: willingness, awareness, recognition, and embodiment. On a June day back in 1965, a man named Bill Thetford, who was a professor at Columbia University, remarked to his colleague Helen Schuckman, "There must be another way of living in harmony rather than discord, of looking at all of this differently." He said he was determined to find it. Little did they know in that moment when Helen agreed to help him find this other way of living that she would become the scribe of something called A Course in Miracles. And Thetford would become her companion and editor on that journey. In that moment, Thetford took the first step in this fourfold path to awakening that we're exploring in this Via. He became willing to live another way. He became willing to see life differently. It was that little willingness that made both he and Helen open to receiving the guidance that eventually became A Course in Miracles. Just a little willingness, jubilants. That's all it takes to turn our lives around, and sometimes even upside down, which the ego doesn't think is a good thing, but it really is. And I'll tell you what, 12 years ago on this day, my little willingness to do the idea of church differently manifested in the first celebration of Jubilee Circle. Happy birthday, Jubilee! This was the January 9th, 2010 was when we held our first celebration. We were a new church start back then in the United Church of Christ, and we were an outgrowth of Garden of Grace, which is still going strong over there on Atlas Road. Eventually, though, we left the UCC and we joined up with the Jubilee community in Asheville that had been the inspiration for me to step out on faith and find another way to help people transform from the inside out. So if you think about it, jubilants, it's just been that little willingness to crack the door open on a new life that always brings sweeping changes to us, not just in the world at large, but within our own lives. So when we become willing to see the world differently, to engage in the world in a new way, to create an inner world of beauty and love and joy, the holy rushes up within us, wells up within us, because the holy will take even the slightest invitation as permission to transform our world from the inside out. And when that happens, all you'll know to say is,
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, yeah." Please rise as you're able. And we begin here every celebration at Jubilee Circle by remembering the four elements: the air, the water, the earth, and the fire. And we burn black sage as a reminder that this is a time to set your intention, to set your personal intention for growth, your personal intention to become more loving and generous and peaceful in the world, but also your intention for the world at large, knowing that as you become more peaceful, more joyful, more loving, so will the world around you. And we orient ourselves in this sacred time and place by calling the four directions. I invite you to turn and face the east. Willingness is something that arises in our bodies, jubilants. Like the sun coming up over the horizon, that glimmer of light reaches our inner eye. Where once there had been darkness, a ray of light appears. And when we are willing to see more of this light of life, the holy light within us dawns more fully, filling us with so much holy light that we cannot help but shine that light out into the world. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the south. I invite you to feel that willingness in this moment by placing your hand over your heart. Place your hand over that organ that keeps you alive. Like the summer heat, the heart keeps our blood flowing, keeps our temperature regulated, but it's also the seat of our passion for life. Willingness always begins as a stirring of the heart, a knowing deep within that there is another way to live, a way filled with heart-bursting love and joy. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the west. I invite you to feel that willingness inside your own mind in this moment by closing your eyes. You're in a safe place. I invite you, close your eyes. See deeply into the darkness. The West welcomes the darkness because it knows it is not total. There's always billions of stars twinkling in the nighttime sky, reminding us of the light within us, no matter how dimly it may seem to shine. In this moment, jubilance, I invite you to see the love that shines within your own moment of darkness and kindles its flames so it can burn brightly in the world. Quarter turn to the right and we face the north. I invite you, jubilance, to feel that willingness by becoming aware of the warmth within your own body. Even as the temperatures cool in the world around us during the winter, our bodies remain warm, maintaining that healthy temperature or raising the temperature to fight off illnesses. This is the willingness of our bodies to remain healthy and alive. So I invite you in this moment, jubilance, to thank your body for its willingness to always find another way to live. And as we turn back toward the center, jubilance, this is the moment to embrace a willingness. Find a way to live in this world and see this world so differently than you just did a moment ago. And then all you'll want to say is, oh yeah. All right, we'll pass some lovely sage around. All right. We got a big room today. So I'm going to run around. Yeah, you get an extra dose. Right, yeah, get my steps in this morning. All right, everybody remain standing, and we will sing our opening song, Little Crosby, Stills, and Nash for us this morning, reminding us of the teachers that we are in this world. We are all teachers. We are all students. We are all learning. So I know there's some new folks in the room, so you veterans help folks out. Give them a chance to know where we're going this morning. All right. And if you are watching remotely out there in TV land, you can go to jubileecircle.com and download today's bulletin. It'll be right there on the front page, and you'll get all the readings and all the fun stuff we're doing this morning. All right. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. And I invite you during this song to greet one another as safely as possible. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Children well, their father's hand did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they piss, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask
told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Oh, yeah. You may be seated. All right. So welcome again, everyone, to Jubilee Circle. Just a little bit about us. We are an inclusive, progressive interfaith community here in Columbia, South Carolina. We teach the timeless common wisdom of love and unity that you find in all mainstream religions and all metaphysical philosophies and mysticism, inspired secular and religious writers throughout the ages. Truth is truth, no matter where we find it. Through popular music and teaching and biweekly and weekly celebrations and educational and artistic events and other community building activities, what we try to do is build a space for everyone where they can experience transformation from the inside out, and then they can go out and become that source of transformation in the world. And we believe that we are here to expand our souls, to find a deeper meaning in life, to renew our commitment to love and peace and justice, learn how to love wastefully, and undergo a transformation from the inside out, and discover how to live into our higher divine self. And we also recognize we're part of God's good creation. We are formed in love and in joy. And we humans, though, we forget this. We slide out of our moms and we hit our heads, and we see the world of paradox and separation. You're over here and I'm over there. And then we start judging things. We look at the world and say, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's ugly. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's bad. Generous, stingy, we just judge the world and put people in a box. Those people are loving and those people are recalcitrant. Obstreperous. That is our other word for recalcitrant. But let us remember our true function here, jubilance. It is to continually be learning who we truly are. We are the light of the world, and we are still united with the Creator that created us, and we are as one. Oh, yeah. Just a few announcements before we move on. We are going to do things a little bit differently today. We've got some things moved around. I'm trying an experiment, and if y'all go, oh my God, we hate that, we can go back to the way things were, but. So we're going to move the prayer time to the beginning and instead of at the end, and we're just going to shuffle things around, go with the flow this morning. For those of you who are new, you have no idea. So this is how we do it all the time to you guys. So but the other folks are going to be looking around going, now wait a minute, we didn't do that the way last time. So we're trying some new stuff, new year, new stuff. We'll see how it goes. It might be like all those other resolutions and last about a week. Who knows? But coming up next week, we're going to continue our Becoming Light Via Creativa theme, and we're going to explore that second step of awareness. And I didn't write down what the music was. Oh, we're going to use a Who song. Yeah, rock and roll next week, y'all. They were asking about more rock and roll, so we'll do some rock and roll next week. All right. Let's see, the Course in Miracles discussion group is meeting Wednesdays at 7:30. Lee McEachern is leading that, so come. It's just informal. We just read from the book and discuss. So if you're interested in the book, even if you've never heard of A Course in Miracles and just are curious, come, and we're very gentle, so. The meditation workshop, I had originally scheduled it for Monday nights, but because of some personal reasons, mainly because I want to go to the gym.
Really?
And that was when the classes were, yeah. I'm trying to get back in shape. I'm at least just trying to build the muscles, because I'm at that age where I could break a hip at any moment, just by shifting in the wrong direction. I could just, whoa, okay, so got to go build the bones. Not worried about the muscle, just the bones. So we're going to do the meditation workshop beginning Thursday night at 6 o'clock. It will be here. We do have a hybrid option for those who want to join us. We're going to be learning a variety of meditation forms, because everybody's like, well, I'd like to meditate, but I don't know how. Okay, so we're going to teach how. So we're going to teach you all these different forms, from like walking meditation, loving kindness meditation, just simple breathing exercises, and you might find something that really hits with you, that you really enjoy doing. And like any exercise, you got to enjoy doing it. if you're going to expect yourself to keep doing it. So we'll find something that you enjoy, and that way you can start your own meditation practice. So join us here 6 o'clock on Thursday. Our next coffee house, we had our open mic and coffee house on Friday. It was great. For those of y'all who missed it, too bad, so sad. It was great. But the next one's coming up on February 4th. And also remember, every Sunday at 10:30, we're doing Soundy School. We could hear y'all over there. How was it this morning? Yeah? Everybody's enjoying it. So come for Soundy School because it's held right next door. Trisha's got a sound healing studio next door with the bowls and all sorts of great things to get you in a meditative mood to come here. And also, our yoga friend, Malika Daniels, is going to give me a schedule soon. She's going to be holding yoga in the building most weeknights. I think she wants to do, well, I don't know. I'll get her schedule. She promised me one, so as soon as I have it, y'all will have it. Are there any other announcements that I'm missing? Oh, yes. Yes, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, if you're interested in the drum circle, they will be here from 2 until, I guess, when they're done. Oh, yeah, it's great. We'll circle the chairs up and have a good time. If you want to come and feel some rhythm, yeah, come in.
If you want to dance, I have dance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can dance. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't even have to have a drum. They'll. Oh, yes. The drum circle is always a blast. So yes, come and be part of that. Oh, and what? Oh, there's lots of sugar back there. Cupcakes and and biscuits and all sorts of ham biscuits, everything back there. Please enjoy yourself. We are celebrating Jubilee's 12th anniversary, so just be festive this morning. That'll be a great thing. All right. So now I have to remember the new way we're doing things. All right. Breathe deeply. We're talking about willingness today. And sometimes the first step is sometimes the hardest. Just being willing. We get so caught in our habits and patterns. Our thinking gets caught on one track. Just obsess about this or that. But I think Bill Thetford's declaration is important. There's got to be another way. When you realize there's got to be another way, then you've got to be willing to explore it. You've got to be willing to put yourself outside your comfort zone. Everyone who visits a new place puts themselves outside their comfort zone. So there's a few of you who have a head start this morning. So welcome. So I invite you in this time of meditation. Go to a place that may seem a little bit of a stretch for you. Become willing to find another way. A way of more peace. A way of more joy. A way of more harmony within yourself. Because that's how you create joy, peace, and harmony in the world. hear these wise and holy words.
From the Jesus story in Matthew chapter 28. Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of, or teach, all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you." From A Course in Miracles, chapter 5. When the ego was made, God placed in the mind the call to joy. This call is so strong that the ego always dissolves at its sound. That is why you must choose to hear one of two voices within you. One you made yourself, and that one is not of God. But the other is given you by God, who asks you only to listen to it. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. His is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. It is possible even in this world to hear only that voice and no other. It takes effort and a great willingness to learn. It is the final lesson that I learned, and God's sons are as equal as learners as they are as sons. From the Bell Hooks 2017 interview with Buddhist monk Pema Chodron. That willingness to stick with yourself is just another way of saying that you stay awake. When you don't close down and shut off, then insight begins to come. This insight is the wisdom that completely cuts through the conventional way of seeing. So, when you see clearly, the motivation to practice becomes stronger and stronger because you begin to have insights that are totally fresh and powerful. The motivation to practice becomes stronger because you are discovering your true nature, and it's painful to block that in any way. It's painful to see yourself being totally neurotic, selfish, all of these things, and you can't stand to do that to yourself. You don't want to cover over your openness anymore.
Thanks be to the holy. All creation is holy word. All creation speaks volumes of the holy. Hallelujah. All right. Here's where it feels weird because we're not going to sing. We're going right into the sermon time. That feels weird for the veterans. For you newbies. Well, jump up anyway because we're just doing the sermon. So, yeah, we are going to sing, just not that. We used to have a hugging song right here for those of you who are veterans. For those of you who are brand new, so.
Did we hug already?
It is weird. Yeah, we hugged in the beginning.
They never do, Keith.
They never do, Keith. You're hard to get to.
Keep up.
You play hard to get back there. He's at the mountaintop, right? Right. Where all bases should be, right? Elevated.
Okay.
All right, our song this morning comes from singer and songwriter Holly Neer. This song is called I Am Willing. It was on her 2006 release called Show Up. 2, 3, 4. I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. It seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is a hurting in my family, and there is sorrow in my town. There is a panic all across the nation, and there is wailing the whole round. But I am open and I am willing for to be would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. I want you guys to learn that chorus with us. I want you to learn the chorus. We're going to stay in C, please. So it's there in your bulletin. Let's try to sing it together. Here we go. 1, 2. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There you go. As a child, I was raised in the Southern Baptist tradition. And once or twice a year, our church would host something called a revival. Anybody ever been to a revival? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're familiar, yes. Arlo, he's got it. He's never been to a well.
In a former life. Maybe.
In a former life, maybe. If you're familiar with Southern Baptist, you know that we were in that building most of the week. Twice on Sundays, Tuesday for choir practice, Wednesday for prayer meeting, or in the case of the kids, Girls in Action or Royal Ambassadors. Don't get me started on those. Anyway, a revival meant you would be there Sunday through Friday, and you would be expected to listen intently to the latest traveling evangelist who was coming through. It also meant that you suddenly assumed the title of pew captain. Anyone here ever been a pew captain before? Okay, this was just... Being a pew captain meant that you were responsible for filling one seemingly infinitely long pew with warm bodies ready to receive the word of God and be so moved by the traveling evangelist that they would accept Jesus as their Savior. I hated revivals. Mainly because I'm a really crappy salesperson. I could never sell band candy or any other items the school forced on us as fundraisers. I always felt like I was imposing on people, and who's going to buy stuff from me anyway? I mean, really. And I felt the same about my religion, perhaps doubly so. Those I knew already went to church, and those who didn't seemed just fine without it, thank you very much. I sucked at selling Jesus. And so when revival time came, I had one very long, dusty, and empty pew. There was something, though, that I was good at in childhood, and I'm still pretty good at today, and that is performing. Even though I'm an introvert, and even a more severe one in childhood, I've always loved to find ways to entertain people. I love to make people laugh and to think. Most people cringe, at the thought of getting up and speaking before a crowd of people, but it was always fun for me because in this moment, I'm not selling you anything. I'm just trying to communicate to you my joy. And when I see that you receive it, my joy increases. According to A Course in Miracles, we are all born with this call to joy. We are all born with a sense that there has got to be a better way to live than through the ego's insistence that we compete against each other and strive for higher and higher achievements in this bodily world. All that ever seems to get us is exhausted and feeling that we have to keep striving for more and more. Even if we got all the wealth, all the fame, all the power that the world has to offer, the ego would never be satisfied. Even if you get it all, you're still empty somewhere. The key to clearly hearing that holy voice calling us to remember our true nature of joy is this: willingness. As A Course in Miracles says, it takes effort and willingness to hear God's call for joy and nothing else. And it's the final lesson that we are called to learn, to hear God's call for joy and nothing else, tuning out all of this static of the ego. First, though, you got to be willing to stop listening to the voice of the ego that tells us we got to sell ourselves in every moment of the day to feel any sense of worth. It's a counterfeit form of joy, though, jubilance, because it's fleeting. We must be willing to tune into that voice for God that offers us lasting joy and is not affected by any circumstances or event outside of ourselves. The good news is, this monumental shift in our perspective from ego to our higher divine self, all it takes is a little willingness. Like the father of the prodigal son, God rushes to meet us when we change direction, when we turn from pursuing the ego's commands to yearning, even if we just turn around a little bit, even if we just glance back to find that better way and begin to tune in to God's joy. God rushes to meet us. The willingness to stick with yourself, says Buddhist monk Pema Chodron, is just another way of saying that you stay awake. That willingness to stick with yourself, your higher self, it's just another way of saying that you stay awake. We become willing to follow that better way of living outside of our ego, Chodron says, when it simply becomes too painful to continually see ourselves as being totally neurotic, selfish, all these things, and you can't stand to do that to yourself anymore. You don't want to cover up your openness anymore. That call to joy for me, it's in performing, it's in writing, it's in teaching, it's in being a source of entertainment, being a source of learning for other people, so they too can unleash their own source of joy. Oddly enough, in the words of Jesus, this meant that though I may have been a terrible pew captain, I was actually a pretty good evangelist. The good news for all of us is this: we are all terrible pew captains when we use our ego as a source for our inspiration. But when we are willing to live into our joy, we become the light of change, because then we become God's best disciples. Breathe deeply. For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the wisdom change caress us, even though they burn our eyes. For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of, or teach, all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. Now those words from today's Jesus story were very prominent in my Southern Baptist upbringing. It was the very foundation for the whole idea of a pew captain. You were expected to go out and evangelize the world, convert them to Christ, or better yet, a Southern Baptist. You were supposed to keep a tally of how many souls you had personally saved. And as kids, we'd go, how many you got this week? I swear to God. We would tally them up. There should have been an app for that, right? There is now. I'm sure there is now. But when we read this passage in context, What an idea, right? It can't possibly mean that our mission in life is to go out and create more Christians, much less Southern Baptists. There were no Christians in Jesus' time. He was not out to convert anyone to any form of organized religion. Just the opposite, in fact. Jesus' gig was to help us remember who we truly are. We are the light of that change. We are also innocent. We are beloved children of God, and we are created in that light and in that love and in that joy. And if we delve into the specific words of this passage, what it commands us to do becomes clear. We are to recognize our own light, our own divine joy, because doing so will help others recognize their own divine light, their own divine joy. We are not here simply to just awaken ourselves, but to awaken the whole world. Let's look at this phrase. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations. This phrase has been used to justify Christianizing the entire world, sending missionaries to countries to convert them from their barbaric religious beliefs. But that's not what Jesus is saying. The word for disciple here, as in the King James Version, it says, it's simply to teach. It's not about converting anybody to anything. What Jesus is asking us to do here is to teach who we are, to teach that we are love, to teach that we are joy, to be willing to uncover our own holy joy by listening solely to the voice of God within, embodying it then in such a way that helps others see that they too have this call to joy within them, just waiting to be recognized and heard and followed. By displaying our own willingness to answer God's call for joy within ourselves, we become the light of change. Others will see our joy, and they will remember their own. But A Course in Miracles tells us in chapter 10 that even though we all possess the great rays of God's divine light, there remains only a spark of this knowledge within many people. Those our egos judge as greedy or recalcitrant or obstreperous or downright evil, they all still have that spark, though their great rays of divine light may be obscured. So if we become willing to see the spark of God's great rays, even within those we judge to have the blackest souls on earth, and we put our faith in that spark of divinity within them, God will answer us, A Course says, and in that answer, we will be provided the power we need to see and reach even the dimmest spark around us and help them remember the truth about themselves so they can reignite the great rays that are already shining within them. That's why Jesus' command to baptize those we meet is so important. Because in that word, in Greek, baptizo, it can mean what we're familiar with, the immersion of our bodies in water to signify the cleansing of the ego and rebirth into spiritual life. That word, though, baptizo, it also means to overwhelm. This means when we truly baptize others when we so overwhelm them with God's light of love that they have no choice but to finally see that spark of love, joy, and innocence that they have within themselves. And this is not a wishy-washy kind of love. This is a fierce love that doesn't wither in the face of violence. It doesn't draw back in the face of hatred or greed or division or tribalism or political differences or willing ignorance. Instead, this is a persistent, overwhelming kind of love that sees through the egos of everyone around us. It penetrates to the true heart of their innocence. The Blue Letter Bible notes that the clearest example that shows the meaning of baptizo is a text from the Greek poet and physician Nicander, who lived about 200 BC. It's a recipe for making pickles. And it's helpful because it uses both of these words that we're talking about. Nicander says that in order to make a pickle, the vegetable should first be dipped, bapto, into boiling water, and then baptized, baptizo, in the vinegar solution. Now, both verbs concern the immersion of vegetables in a solution, but the first is temporary. The second, the act of baptizing the vegetable, produces a permanent change. The boiling water is temporary. The vinegar makes it permanent. This is what we're called to do in the world, jubilants. We are called to be willing to be so fully baptized in God's call for joy that we are pickled or permanently changed. As we become pickles for God, pickles for God, right? It's the real deal. It really is. Yeah.
The real deal. We're all in a pickle.
Does everybody need a minute? Okay. Yeah, right. Oh.
That was kosher.
Oh. Now I've started.
You did it.
I know. All right. Pickles for God. As we get pickled, we're made willing to be so overwhelming in our love and joy that others are moved to get out of the boiling water of the ego and into that holy vinegar solution where they too are permanently changed, made pickles for God. Before we get pickled in the spirit, though, jubilants, that first step, it's willingness. Are you willing to get out of the ego's boiling water that just keeps you forever seeking relief from all that relentless roiling? Are you tired of being boiled alive by your ego's demand that you follow this desire or avoid that desire, all in the name of finding some peace and joy in your life? Are you tired, jubilants, of seeking lasting joy and never finding it through the ego's ideas and schemes? If so, it is time to get pickled. It is time to be willing to be immersed in that holy pickling juice that changes life as you know it forever. When we are willing to be overcome by God's call for joy in our lives and we allow it to wash over us and change not just our minds, but our very souls, then we will always find joy that lasts forever and is never diminished by anything outside of ourselves. In fact, I would submit that if we are so overwhelmed with the love of God and it's so overwhelming with the love of God to others that the events of the world will never overwhelm us. Instead, they will make us more determined to teach everyone in the world about the light we have seen, not just in ourselves, but within them. This is a transformation that gives us new eyes. So instead of seeing recalcitrant, greedy, awful people in the world, all we now behold are innocent children of God, caught up in the ego's deadly game of seek but do not find. Our hearts are broken open by this sight, and all we want to do is overwhelm them, baptize them in the light of spirit that we see, however dimly, is shining within them. This is what Pema Chodron means when she says our willingness is us saying we want to stay awake. As we awaken, we become more inspired and we become more inspiring. As we awaken, we see our true nature more clearly, she says, and we find that we can't go back to those old lower ways of thinking and believing once we have seen the truth. And once we become willing jubilants to stay awake, we can never again believe the ego when it tells us that we're neurotic or selfish or unworthy. This is when we know we've been fully pickled in God's call to joy. So jubilants, I invite you to hear the good news today. We all have the spark. We all have the great rays of light within us. We all have this call to joy. So I invite you, as this new year gets rolling, choose to listen to only one voice, God's voice. Be overwhelmed by the call to joy. Choose to stay awake, and as you discover the spark of light of change within yourself and you allow it to shine brightly in the world, others will notice their own spark, and they too will become willing to leap out of that boiling water of ego into that divine pickling juice, and together we all become permanently changed. In the end, jubilants, if we become pew captains who are relentless in our willingness to shine our light of love, we will fill our pew of life with other radiant souls who are ready to join us as the light of change in the world. And that's a vision that can make you say,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. For I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. It seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me almighty hope to hold my confusion, and give me a desert to hold my peace. Give me a sunset to hold my wonders, and give me an ocean to hold my tears. For I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless, which seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Oh, yeah. All right. When Jubilee Circle began 12 years ago, our first celebration was held at Garden of Grace, because we were a new church start of that UCC at the time. And we held services on Saturday night, so we wouldn't compete, Sunday morning with our host church. And we held it at Garden of Grace, but we knew we didn't want to be in that space. We wanted to establish our own identity, our own independence as a new church start. And so the next Sunday, we met at a Lutheran church. This was just further down the road at Two Notch, around I-20. And they charged us $25 to use either the sanctuary or the gym. We ended up in the gym most of the time because we wanted to circle the chairs up. We didn't want to be in that stuffy church kind of, atmosphere. And they have a beautiful sanctuary, but the gym was where we ended up. And then a fella came one time to our service at the gym, and he said, "Do you guys need a different space?" And we're like, "Well, sure, that would be great. You're having to set up and tear down and do all that stuff." And he said, "I own a gym on Millwood. You can use our yoga room." And I said, "Great, how much?" He said, "Nothing." Oh, hey, that's our price. Because we were small, we were just getting started, we were just learning to crawl, man. We hadn't started running yet. And we spent time over there, and eventually we wanted to do more in the building, so he started to charge us, some things, and he built a little office for me, and, so we started to pay some rent. And we stayed there for, 7 or 8 years? We were there for a long time. And finally, he kicked us out. He was like, "Y'all can't stay here anymore." I mean, he was starting to sell the building. He was starting to make his own changes in his life. And so he kicked us out, and we didn't know what in the world we would do. And the Columbia Children's Theater offered us space at Richland Mall. And they were upstairs in the mall at that time. And it was summer. And it was hot because they have no air conditioning in that space. But it was it's always been, if I look back at the progression of Jubilee, it's always been a kindness from someone someone has always stepped up and said, you can have a space. We had a couple of angel donors, I'll call them, who helped us get into the next space on Millwood. It was a very expensive space, and we made it work for 2 years. And as that lease was coming due, Tricia mentioned to me, I've got this space in a strip mall down on Two Notch. It's always been a kindness. It's always been someone stepping up and saying, how can I help? This community is important to me. What can I do? And Tricia and Jessica saved us. They saved our butts when we were looking for a place. 3 years ago? Has it been 3 years? Always someone raises their hand and says, I can help. And that's why we're celebrating 12 years today. Because there's always somebody in the community who said, I can help. And if that's you, you want to know how you can help, you can go to jubileecircle.com. There you'll find a link. You can donate. You can donate through PayPal. You can donate through Venmo. You can write a check. The post office box is posted. I am cognizant that the only reason Jubilee is here is not, it has very little to do with me. It has very little to do with me. It has everything to do with the community, with you all. Because someone has always said, how can I help? So I stand here blessed today and grateful for all of your help, for the help in the past, for the help in the present, and the help in the future. Because this community has listened to the call for joy. And it's the only way that we are here now. Because we still listen for that call for joy, how to create it within, and how to send it out into the world. So thank you all, because you're the reason we're here today. All of those who were helping us in the past, all those who will come in the future, and all of you now. Thank you. I am grateful. And with that note, those of you listening and watching on YouTube, I want to wish you a good week. We are going to stay in the room and do a little talk back session. But I want to remind you, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. And so together we say, thank you. And we say, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all have a great week.